In 1979, 25-year-old Ripon Kapoor started this extraordinary organization for children called Cry. But Cry really started in the heart of a schoolboy. Apparently, his mother used to say when he was really, really young, only 5 years old, he used to take his Diwali crackers and go and burst it with the slum children and not with his friends. Even when he was in St. Mary's School, he used to mobilize all the schoolboys there and go sell newspapers. This is echoing. Okay, he used to go and sell newspapers and with the money buy milk and distribute it to those slum children. It must have been something else for this shy young boy to actually get other boys part of this endeavor, which was distinctly non-sporty. But for Ripon, impossible was not part of his vocabulary. When he joined Air India, he wrangled a visit to the Vatican to meet the Pope to get the first Cry Christmas cards blessed. He then met this troupe in the UK called Circus Magic, and he convinced them to come to India practically free of cost. So Ripon was utterly frugal, right? He used to holler at anybody in the office who used to use 2 staple pins instead of 1. So coming back to Circus Magic, these clowns got off this flight, Air India flight, on stilts and straight onto the front pages of every newspaper in Mumbai. And Cry became this household name. Soon he did something even bigger, right? Ripon was the first person to organize one of the largest contemporary art exhibitions in India. Really common now, right? But an extremely radical thought at that point of time. He actually got together 130 contemporary artists, big artists, Raza, Jahangir Sabawala. Apparently at the Jahangir Art Gallery, there were people queued overnight waiting for the exhibition. And of course, there were a few famous people who did attend as well. When I look back at how it all started, right, this young man, middle-class family, right, no connections, no resources, that started this amazing organization that has sustained till today, and that's made such a huge impact on India's children. So when I was asked to come and do this TED Talk, I was absolutely sure I wanted to do it about young people because of Ripon, what he was able to achieve, right? But I'm saying, like, now what is going to be at the heart of my talk? So one day it came to me. I was standing in this line at PVR, okay? There was just one counter open. And I'm getting really irritated because the line is getting longer and I'm muttering to myself, but obviously not doing anything. And there were a bunch of 20-somethings, okay? They were the ones who made the most noise. They protested loudly and insisted that more counters be open. And then I'm thinking, right? Young people have been described as, and I'm sure you've been criticized, rash, rebellious, impulsive, at the minimum, impertinent, right? And you'll have such short attention spans. But there is a flip side to this. And when I look back at Ripon, and I look back at those 20-somethings in the PVR line, what is it? It's a restlessness combined with a boldness, combined with a hopefulness. You know that change is possible, right? So if you look at it, right, young people have been at the forefront of many, many movements. We've seen it in India lately, right, where young people came out against corruption. They came out in grief and in anger at what happened to that young lady on a bus in Delhi, right? And you've seen it at global epic level as well, where young people are using new technologies to kind of outmaneuver the government, the Arab Spring, opening up a world of possibilities for their generation. So I met this young guy recently. He's only 23 years old in Delhi, Anshul Tiwari, who's opened up a world of possibilities for young people by starting this online platform called, you might have heard of it, Youth Ki Awaaz. The idea of Youth Ki Awaaz came to Anshul when he was very young, right? He realized that young people had no connect with the power centers of the country. And at that time, there was only Orkut. There was no Facebook and Twitter. Can you imagine a world like that? So there was no real platform for young people to express themselves, to have a voice. So he started Youth Ki Awaaz, but it took a while for it to be sustainable, right? So Anshul was really young, so he was often patronized and said, like, come on, go get yourself a job first. Why are you bothering with this kind of thing? He did about 200 meetings to get sponsors, and he was rejected each and every time. Even his very supportive parents said, after he finished his undergrad, come on, Anshul, just do a postgrad as a backup. But Anshul was determined to focus on Youth Ki Awaaz, and there were several turning points on the way, and one big turning point happened in 2011. So that was the time of Arab Spring, okay, and there was this young reader called Pranay is his name. Pranay's father got stuck in Libya, and he lost contact with his dad, right, and he told Anshul about it. Anshul said, why don't you write on Youth Ki Awaaz? Pranay wrote on Youth Ki Awaaz, and the website was completely flooded. It became one of the biggest stories in India. And CNN IBN picked it up, interviewed Pranay, the 1-hour segment, and as a result, the government felt so much of pressure, they had to send ships to get back people. So not only did Pranay's father come back, but 16,000 people, 16,000 Indians were brought back. And it just reinforced Anshul's belief that youth can make a difference. Okay, so today, Youth Ki Awaaz is very big. It has like millions of readers, a couple of thousand young writers, 7 employees. It runs campaigns for different organizations, and it's given the youth an opportunity to be advocates and champions for issues that are important to them. And why is that? Because of this young guy who had a vision, went after it with single-minded focus and without giving himself any escape route. Now, Kreanne has, over many, many years, given young people an opportunity to come together, discuss ideas, solve problems, essentially be empowered to be change agents. One such platform is called Click Rights. It's our annual photojournalism campaign, right? That uses the powerful medium of photography to tell the story of India's children. And Click Rights this year was about child labor. We did a gamut of activities. One of the things we did is give children from our projects, working children, cameras. We trained them, and they went out and took photographs of the world around them. We asked eminent photographers to also take photographs. And then we did these exhibitions across the country, supported by a gamut of events, flash mobs and, nukkad nataks and other kinds of performances. And we even projected the images on pretty iconic buildings like India Gate. Yeah? And at the center of all these activities were young volunteers. And one such volunteer was Ujjwal. Now, let me give you an idea about Ujjwal, right? He's from IIT Kharagpur. He's just graduating now. Just to prove to all those people who told him you are not well built enough or tall enough to actually do any sporting activity, he joined the track team. Then to prove to his teammates that it is attitude that matters, he actually ran the 42-kilometer marathon with 1 month of training, just 1 month, not formal training, just running round and round his 2-kilometer track in his campus. Yeah? So Ujjwal's passion was cycling and photography, so he used to go off with his friends and taking photographs of the world around him. And then he's sitting with his friend one day and he says, let's do this long trip. How about we do 500 kilometers? No, 1,000 kilometers, 1,500 kilometers. Finally, they settled for 2,500 kilometers. Yeah? And they said, let's attach a course to it. And that's how Kreanne and Click Rights became part of Ujjwal's journey. Right? So on June 30th, so what was decided was, Ujjwal would cycle all the way from Kolkata to Bombay, across 4 states, photographing children from our projects, okay, blogging about it, and ultimately raising funds for Kreanne. So June 30th, come 3 p.m., Ujjwal takes off from Kolkata amid some fanfare. There's some celebrities, some media guys, with these second-hand bikes that were sponsored, and really not a lot of equipment, right? But he's like, what he did get was a lot of dire warnings, right? That you are going to be kidnapped by Naxals, and you are going to be robbed, and you are going to be cheated. So he left with all these dire warnings. So I asked Ujjwal, but at any point of time, were you nervous or were you like scared? And he was like, those red transport buses in Maharashtra were a little terrifying. And one time I was going in this lonely road in Amravati. I may have had some visions of wild animals and ghosts. But mostly since once I managed to cycle through 45 degrees centigrade heat, I knew I could do anything, right? But what Ujjwal actually experienced was an abundance of generosity and kindness. The repair guy buying him juice, random strangers giving him accommodation and food. The publication Divya Bhaskar, the journalist said that anytime you have a problem at any stage, just give us a call, we will help you. And so what he experienced was he was inspired by so many people he engaged with and obviously inspired many people that he met. So I know what Ujjwal has done for CRY, right? He's raised awareness and funds for a critical issue confronting children today. And he did it in a manner that reflected his spontaneity and his fearlessness. But this young man now is going off to Singapore to build bridges, apparently. And I have absolutely no doubt he will do it literally and figuratively. Yeah, so Ujjwal doesn't come from a particularly privileged background, but throughout our journey in CRY, we have encountered many children from our projects who have driven change while irrevocably changing their own lives. And one such young person is Shakti. Now, Shakti comes from Tamil Nadu, a slum from a Dalit family, and she started working at the age of 13 in a fish export company, packing fish. Working over 13 hours, 12 to 13 hours a day, just so that there was enough money for her parents and her family to have that one meal in a day. Deprived of an education, no time for recreation and play. Her childhood was slowly getting chipped away at, right? But Shakti had one thing that she was focused on. She had one big passion. And you know what that was? That was football. Shakti loved football and wanted to play football. And seeing this passion, community workers, her parents, the social workers actually said, why don't you join some football classes? And soon Shakti was put back in school and went back to the game that she really loved. Now, Shakti today has finished her Bachelor of Science. She is the first person in her family who's gone beyond 18 and wasn't married off. And she is, she's a referee for Tamil Nadu State and has officiated many football matches. And she plays for Chennai district, But she's also giving back in a big way. So she's trained 100 children in football. She does these weekly sessions with children on discussing issues that are important to them. And what she's also done is stopped many, many child marriages in the nick of time. And Shakti has become a complete icon in her community. Now, Shakti's generation, your generation, is growing extremely rapidly, right? In India today, there are over 400 million young people under the age of 18. But the challenges you face aren't particularly daunting, right? For example, if current levels of child marriage are anything to go by, 39,000 young people will get married below the age of 18 daily. Daily. The unemployment rate for young people is over 13%. And despite great deal of effort that has gone into enrolling children in school, we're talking about over 60 million adolescents who are out of school. And come on, let's face it, the environment is also not enabling, right? You are still taught to fear failure. You are still sometimes pushed to follow traditional career paths. We are often told, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not thin enough, you're not fair enough. So the environment isn't that enabling. Okay, so now that I have probably depressed you a little bit, let me tell you why I am so optimistic about today and about the future. And it's something that Anshul told me. He said, you know, this is a transition generation, right? Because a lot of things have stayed the same, but a lot of things have changed, right? The obvious one is that you now have so many more platforms to get your voice heard, and you can shout as loud as you want, and so many people are going to hear you. And this is the most interconnected generation ever. But you know something? Mostly, young people have purposefulness, optimism, and sheer audacity. And please forgive the cheesiness, but I'm calling this the POA for change. Yeah? So if young people can just draw on these qualities, draw on them, and drive change, and most importantly, be open to engaging with others and with yourself, then change is possible. So this is what I would say. Drive your own agenda. Yeah? Find those passions, even that one passion, jump into it. Use it in some way, big or small, to make change, yeah? And if, and this is important, if in the experience and in the process, you yourself are transformed, like Anshul and Ujjwal and Ripin and Shakti, then I have absolutely no doubt the world will become a little more awesome. Thank you.